So how did you meet Corey Jacobson? Like, how did you guys meet and become hunting partners for so long ever since then?
We met at work. We both worked at the same semiconductor manufacturer, and so we just kind of hit it off. And he had his normal area that he hunted elk in had a big wildfire going that season, and he needed a new place to go. You can go into my spot. It's not very good archery season, but I kill something there every year with rifle. So good luck trying to kill something with a bow. And Corey goes in there opening day of archery season. And by noon, he sends me a text message saying bull down. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
I was like, well, if I throw a mic on, then I can help others the way that these people have all helped me.
Born in the heart of the Pennsylvania deer camp. With the help of experts, friends, and local legends, we bring you valuable knowledge and powerful stories for your hunting adventures. Welcome to the East Meets West Hunt Podcast with your host, Beau Martonik.
All right, we are live. Donnie Drake, this one has been a long time coming.
Yes, it has. We've had many conversations, just none that were recorded, thankfully.
Yeah. I was also, we've talked about recording one for at least 3 years, and we were always going to do it in person. I love doing them in person better, but we're always at a TAC event and having fun shooting and hanging out with everybody, and always just seems like it slips by.
Yeah. This just shows me that you've kind of gotten to seasons aren't too far away right now, and you're like at the bottom of your barrel of people that you can come and bring in to talk to. So, hey, I'll bring Donnie in.
Yeah, I figured, it's the time of year where it's kind of that lull and people aren't really listening yet. So, like, I could just need a filler episode. That's why I asked you.
There you go.
I'm just kidding.
I'll do some ShamWows and some lotions and scent sprays. You'll get a lot of income off of this one.
Oh man, I hope we were talking beforehand. I hope I get to see you again at TAC and get to shoot together. That's how we got to meet. So Donnie Drake from Elk 101 and Donnie, I guess we met, I don't know, 4 years ago, probably something like that.
Oh, at least 4. It might be more.
Yeah, I'm losing track of time.
Yeah, you had just stopped wearing diapers like the year before, and you had killed a doe, and you were like, you've totally grown since then.
Oh man, I know. Yeah, it's been a minute, but we got to shoot together a lot, and I've had Corey on the podcast probably 5 or 6 times. It's been probably 5 years since I've had him on, but I had him on a bunch before and just remotely, and that was before I had even met him, and now I just see him at all the events as well. But it's been fun getting to know you and shoot with you. And I will say, you are a dang good shot when it comes to shooting a bow.
Well, whenever I shoot my arrow, it always hits something. So it might not be what we're aiming at, but I will hit something.
Well, when I was watching one of the Elk 101 videos from Destination Elk, the V7, the last year's one here recently. I was just watching them and just kind of catching up on things, and I watched you shoot a bull in there. I mean, just perfect, 10 ringed them. And I was like, it just reminded me at TAC, because like you'll come up and you'll act like you're not confident and like all this stuff, and you're tired, and just for some reason that arrow just always hits where it's supposed to go.
Yeah, I don't know if it hits where I'm aiming, but Oftentimes an animal dies at the end of it. So
Well, whatever you're doing, it seems to be working all right. Was that always? I mean, do you still have screw ups and stuff now? Like when it comes to the hunting and shooting?
oh, definitely. I mean, like 2 weeks ago, there was a competitive, basically a smoker round archery shoot where everybody gets one arrow and you shoot until the end of all of the targets, or you break or lose an arrow. And 15 target shoot, and I'm doing good. I was drilling 10s and a couple of 11s, and on the 11th target, I totally missed the target. So I was done. I didn't even get to make it through the entire 15 targets before I stopped gaining points.
Oh man.
I think there was like 9 of us that started it, and there was only 4 people left. Oh no, there was only 2 people left at the end of the 15. So, and those smoke rounds you can't even see the vitals on the target. You can see the animal. You have to either go over or through brush or right next to a rock. But yeah, I mean, I don't always hit where I'm aiming. Anybody that says they do might be a little overconfident.
Well, I don't mean any ill will by this, but I'm glad to hear that, because sometimes I feel like, there'll be days when I'm just like doing so good, and then there'll be just times when I just straight up blow it. I mean, last year I blew a shot on a buck that was like 25 yards broadside, easy as could possibly be, and you would have thought it was the first time I was shooting a bow, and I shot right under.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings it back to, I shoot all the time. You shoot all the time. Imagine what our shooting would be like if we didn't practice year round. How often would our failures be evident versus, hitting the target and practicing and knowing shot angle or what your arc and trajectory is going to look like? It's ever present, and being able to go out and practice like an attack, or your local 3D shoots, backyard shooting every night. If you weren't doing that, you would not be as far ahead as you can be. You're relying a lot more on luck instead of the skill.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to remove luck as much as possible, although I will take it when it's good luck.
Exactly. I think that I've said for quite a while that elk hunting is 90% luck and 10% skill, whether it's skill in yourself, your shooting, your tag that you're hunting on. But I'm going to use all 10% that I can and let that 90% be 90% luck.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And so you said you shoot, I mean, you shoot year round. And I didn't realize you did some competitive type stuff. Is that new, or you've always done that?
I always go to shoot. I mean, I shoot winter leagues and things like that. I don't do like any Vegas shoots or anything, but I'll go and just to keep practice up during the wintertime, join a winter league and go and shoot every week on a Wednesday, Thursday night, and just to be able to keep firing a bow, keep muscle memory going, make sure everything's staying on. During the wintertime, there's longer nights, so you get to go out, hang with people that are doing the same thing, they have the same passion, and talk. And I gain as much from going to those shoots as them going to the shoot. I learn stuff from them, they learn stuff from me. So it's equally beneficial to everybody that's at those kind of shoots.
Yeah, and also they help with, at least for me, it helps with the pressure aspect of it and almost mimics a little bit closer to a hunting scenario versus shooting in the yard where it's like you're just calm, collected, can shoot. When you go, whether it's one of those events or attack, and we got everybody that's, talking shit in your ear and or just staring at you, even if they're not saying anything, just being there with people looking at you, you can really, it can really cause anxiety.
Oh, I feel that being at attack and having some of the people that you've shot with or that I shoot with standing there watching as you draw your bow back is more intimidating than an elk coming into you at 10 yards. It's the best pressure that you can put on yourself shooting with some of your peers at any point in time.
Yeah, I know. Like I think we're both one person in particular. We shot with Dudley and shooting with him, who's like, obviously an incredible shooter and rarely misses. And, then it's like all of a sudden I smash a branch or something. And it's just like, then you feel even more pressure, the next target. And it's just like, it definitely creates a unique situation.
And Dudley won't even mention it to you if you hit a branch.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, that time was his fault why I hit that branch. I'm not taking any ownership of it, but no, remember when what he said, he's like, I'm like, do you think I'll clear that branch? And he's like, oh, you're good. And then I shot and I squared it. And he's like, oh, I figured your arrows looked a little heavy that you were probably going to hit that. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yep. The friend encouragement is humbling.
Yeah. It's but man, those types of events, whether it's attack or a 3D shoot or whatever, getting to be around people is so much fun and definitely helps. Like I always come back from one of those events knowing what I need to work on. That's for sure.
100%. Or you come away, you see technology that you might not particularly be using that other people are using, and it gives you a little insight. Maybe that's something I should try or at least look at to see if I can improve that 10% odds that I was talking about.
Yep. Yeah, that's, definitely. And just like, there's something about it too where, like, in my house, I can't shoot 100 yards. I don't have the distance to be able to do so. I can shoot 70, I think is about the max I can push it out in my yard. But you go there, and then after you shoot a while and you're shooting with people like yourself and others that are good shooters, I don't know, after I get through like that anxiety, it also builds like my confidence up. And then almost like it's like follow the leader. You start shooting good, and it just builds your confidence being around other good people.
100%. Yes. It, what do they say? I can't even remember the name of the saying, but a polished stone polishes other stones the same. So can't remember the name of the saying, but you sharpen each other.
Yeah.
You're out there.
Oh, I 100% agree with that, and it's pretty cool. So I hope we get to shoot together again this year.
Me too. Just waiting for another month or so of springtime to go away and it to be summer and bring on Montana and Utah.
Yeah, that'll
Go
be
give Sean some trouble.
Yeah, for sure. So I didn't mean to skip over a little bit of the introduction there, but I was thinking about that and kind of how we met, and it just kind of took me down that rabbit hole a little bit. But if you wouldn't mind, so this is, like I said, your first time on the podcast, giving the listeners a little bit of understanding on who Donnie is and kind of how you got into elk hunting.
Oh, I've been elk hunting it's probably been since 91 or so. And I had spent 16 years archery elk hunting. In Idaho, it used to be you could hunt archery. If you didn't shoot archery, you'd be able to take your rifle out and go and shoot it with a rifle. So I had done it with archery equipment for 16 years before I killed my first elk with a bow. I killed him with a rifle, but not with a bow until I had met Corey and was able to hunt with him, and figured that that was a key moment in the learning of elk hunting and recognizing what I was doing wrong as an archery elk hunter. Was I never paid attention. I had no inclination that the wind and the scent was playing any role in me trying to hunt elk with my bow. And so been doing that. Met Corey, hunted with him, and I think it was my second year. That was my first year hunting with Corey. I was able to shoot an elk with my bow. So just that recognition of what factor the wind plays into hunting elk made all of the difference on how to approach the elk, how to set up on the elk, and what to do when you're in the field.
Yeah, that's wild to think that that one component. I'm sure there's other things too, but basically that main thing of the wind, it was that differentiator for you between success and non.
Yeah, so I had grown up archery hunting and rifle hunting, but I grew up in Nevada where I wasn't able to hunt elk, and it was more open country. So you're rifle hunting and taking longer shots, mule deer, kind of, a subspecies, not so smart species like a whitetail. The dumb animals.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't realize how good wild animals' noses are. But Corey says it best, and it's like they are out there literally to survive every single day, every single minute of every year. And in order for them to do that and to survive, they have to rely on their senses and their nose and their sense of smell. I don't care if it's whitetail, mule deer, elk. They are relying on their sense of smell as a number one priority in the movements that they make. They use it to know where they're going. Smelling, they can sense danger long before we can sense any kind of danger. So it makes all the difference just being able to carry a little bit of powder in a bottle that says the wind's blowing this way or that way makes all of the difference.
Yeah, and especially in the mountains. I mean, similarly, and I think that helped me going into elk hunting, because whitetail hunting, with always playing the wind in the Appalachian Mountains and the stuff that I hunt out here, it's like it's very similar, and always dealing with it, and always dealing with swirling winds and trying to figure that stuff out. It's tough, because every time you think it's going to do something, even if like, oh, thermal's supposed to go up, when the sun's coming out, and they're supposed to go down, and when the sun goes down, and it doesn't always work that cleanly.
Exactly. And I literally feel that the whitetail hunters back east and the flatland hunters may have a little bit of an advantage on knowing how to play the wind, because you don't have the mountains that we do, but you have these rolling hills here and there, and it's not as consistent as it is on a mountain and a valley and a ravine. It's up, down at steep angles, where back east you're in not as steep a terrain, and those thermal changes are more apt to keep your scent in a bigger swath than on a mountainside where it's going to be going up or down. That makes any kind of sense.
And like even and even in places like, because there are, and in some of the places I've hunted out west, there are some places in the east that are pretty close to being as steep, but what they have, the difference, exactly what you're saying, is there's more breaks in that terrain, more benches, like in a closer distance. It's not as tall a mountain, so it's like, compacting that down. And so it's different where, thermals, you have a stronger thermal pull the more elevation that you have. But anyways, Donnie, so talking about you getting into elk hunting and meeting Corey and him helping you in that journey there a little bit. So how did you meet Corey Jacobson? Like, how did you guys meet and become hunting partners for so long ever since then?
So we met at work. We both worked at the same semiconductor manufacturer, and I had some pictures of deer and a couple of elk and bighorn sheep that I was part of a couple of hunts and had them on my wall at work. And Corey moved into our group, and he was like, "You hunt?" "Yeah, I hunt a little bit." And so we just kind of hit it off, and we would go and eat apple fritters every morning at work and just talk and BS. And the initial hunt for elk stuff happened. He had his normal area that he hunted elk in had a big wildfire going that season, and he needed a new place to go, and told me about it. And I'm like, "I have a place that you could go. You can go into my spot. It's not very good archery season, but I kill something there every year with rifle. So good luck trying to kill something with a bow." And Corey goes in there opening day of archery season, and by noon, he sends me a text message saying bull down. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" But yeah, and that was literally the following year when we actually hunted together. That's where I killed my bull, is in that same area. And I had done it for 16 years, approaching it one way. And then when Corey and I went in there together, I'm like, I know this area. I know almost every tree in here. And I take off walking on the path that we're going to go and chase these elk in. And Corey's like, "Hey, where are you going? Why are you going there?" I'm like, "Well, that's where I always go, and the elk are always right here." And he's like, "Well, if you go up there, they're going to catch your scent and they're going to be gone. So you're kind of defeating the purpose of going in there. If we go in over here," puffs his thing, and he's like, "they won't be able to smell us and we'll be able to sneak into them instead." I'm like, "Okay, if you say so." Oh, we literally march right in. There's elk. It's like, okay, there's something to this playing the wind thing.
Oh, that's really cool. And then, like, was he doing anything? Was Elk 101 a thing at that point?
It wasn't a thing. That Elk 101 started because Corey was extremely knowledgeable. People were continually reaching out for him on why and how it is that he's so successful on killing elk every year. And so started Elk 101 because we were doing a in-person seminar on elk hunting, and needed a website to be able to take a $20 payment to be able to come to the seminar. And it was literally just a pay site to go make your payment, and you could come down to Cabela's to join us for the class. Well, after that, after that first class, people had all these questions. We wanted to know how to provide answers, and it became just us sharing our tips and tricks and tactics that we're using to kill elk. Not only that, but what kind of gear we were using. People wanted recommendations, so we took a list of all of our gear, became a dealer for those items, and started the Elk 101 store where you could buy any of the items and the gear that we used and believed in, and just more and more content. And over the years and multiple seminars later, it got a little cumbersome going to all the different places to do these. Then Corey had put together the University of Elk Hunting, which is ultimately why I know Beau. But he put together the University of Elk Hunting and put it out as our online course that contains all of the knowledge and mistakes that we've made over the years to be able to be more successful in elk hunting.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I think I've told you this before, but even just for the listeners, the University of Elk Hunting was that's how I was learning how to hunt elk. You know, going on my first elk hunt was I signed up, took the course, went through it and learned, and then I went out and hunted and got my ass kicked and came back and went through it again and was trying to learn things and learned a lot. And it was funny that when I started this podcast in 2018, it wasn't until the second year of doing it, being in 2019, that it was getting enough traction that I started to monetize it. And Corey in Elk 101 was the first sponsor that I had that ran an advertisement on the podcast back then. And it was so easy. It's like, man, I went through this. Like this helped me out so much to be able to do so. And like especially at that time, there was not the information that's out there today. Like it was just like, I was like, it's still gold today, but like just being able to be able to get that information for someone from the East trying to go out West was like, it was amazing.
Exactly. And the passion that you had, I feel that you knew whitetail 90%. You know everything about whitetail, but you wanted to expand your experience of the hunting world. And I remember back when you initially had started your podcast and your format, and it was just like, There's a lot of people that are coming from the East out to the West, and being able to bridge that gap and talk to each other without the Colorado Rocky Mountains in between us.
Yeah.
It's been a good platform, and I think that your platform, what you have learned, you were able to take your hardships in learning that stuff and apply it to a foundation that people could listen to and research and listen to a couple of podcasts and at least get a foundation for the ideas that you're going to need to be able to be successful when you do come out west, whether it's a mule deer hunt, a whitetail hunt, a bear hunt, or prize elk hunt.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing, you were talking about how 16 years, before you killed an elk with a bow. And now mine wasn't as long, but it felt as long when it took 4 years to kill my first elk with a bow. But like, at least this is the way I felt. I'm curious to hear, your experience with it. But once I did, and I got that under my belt, one, it gave me more confidence, whether I should have had confidence or not, but like that experience and just being out there, because you can have all the information that you want through the podcast, through the University of Elk Hunting, through whatever, but until you actually do it and you spend a lot of time out there getting your butt kicked, like that's when things start to click.
Oh yeah, and it's just a human nature that you're gonna feel like you're going to, if you've never done something before and you've failed at it, you have an instinct that it's not going to happen. So you somewhat have a tendency to give up a little quicker or not put in as much effort. But once you have that success, you recognize the things that you did right, and you want to enhance that possibility of success more. You delve into it deeper, you research more, you practice more, all of the things that go with it, because you want that feeling of success to continue.
Yeah. And you feel, at least for me, when because no matter what, even if you've had success in the past, you hit these points in hunts where it's like these low spots, or you feel like nothing could ever go right, and there's not an elk within 10 miles of you, and you just, or maybe there is, and you just keep screwing it up or whatever. To me, it just, I get it in the back of my head of just like, it just takes that one moment. Like everything can change in one moment, and that, until you have that success, it's hard to see that as a possibility.
Well, 100%. Every year, Corey and I are at that exact same moment, literally every year. Like, what are we doing wrong? And we're not going to be able to get anything, and we need to relocate, and nothing is going your way, but you haven't heard an elk bugle all season, and then all of a sudden you hear that one elk bugle. It's in an instant from the darkest no moon day to a clear no cloud Sunday, and everything changes, and your spirits can go from 0 to 100 just in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it helps you just grind it through those times and just keep continuing to be able to go. And I think that's, I don't know, just all the successful hunters I've talked to over the years, the number one thing I feel like that creates success is just people that just don't quit. I mean, everyone struggles, whether you might look at it, you see it on Instagram, you see it on your guys' YouTube, which, I mean, you guys show everything so people can see the struggles and stuff there too. But for the most part, you see things, and it's like, man, they're just always just killing elk. But it's like, that is not always the case. Like there's a lot that leads up to that.
I mean, if it was just kills, I don't think it would be fun. Those struggles, those experiences, I listen to all of your podcasts and your passion. I think that you are more passionate about some of your unsuccessful seasons than you were about your successful seasons, because of the experience that you had with the people you were with and what you actually learned from that hunting season.
Oh yeah. And too, like, I wish, it's funny, in the moment you don't wish for this, but like I almost wish every hunt would come down to the last day, because you get all that extra learning that comes down to it. Like the example I'll give you, like last year when I hunted Montana, I actually I passed on a bull on day one, and I was like, what am I doing? Like I have not earned the right opportunity. I had a good tag, so I knew there was, better potential, but it was, a young 6x6. I'm like, what am I doing? And I was like kicking myself. I'm like, I do not deserve to pass on anything. And it took me all the way till day 10 to get that next opportunity. And I ended up shooting a much bigger bull, and it was incredible, and I felt so good after it. But there was a lot of doubt in that middle range there. But through that, I was spotting stock and elk, so it was like that was my first time doing that. So it was, I screwed up a bunch of times on it, got to learn it, learning when was the best time to put a stock on. Originally I was like, oh, I want the wind to die down so my arrow is not going all over the place. But then I learned that I could get a lot closer if the wind speed was high and the wind was consistent. So like there were all these things that I learned from having that extra time and going through it that I wouldn't have if I would have tagged out on day one.
Yeah. Yeah. You learn. The best learning experience is learning from your failures.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore with that. And the one thing so again, speaking of looking at the recent Destination Elk, which for anyone that's listening, that's the YouTube series that Corey and Donnie and everyone else that contributes to Elk 101 does every year, going through kind of your elk season. This last year was like a crazy challenge where you guys went, was it 8 days without food?
8 days you had 8 days to fill your tag with everybody started at the same point, and we're all had the same tags. And we all left from one base camp and had 8 days to successfully fill 2 elk tags, you and your hunting partner. And when we left camp, nobody could take any food with them. So we had to replenish our fuel supply with what we either killed or could scrounge up or forage for. And we learned real quick that the amount of calories and energy that you burn is way greater than what you are able to replenish or sustain during a hunting season. I could see why the Indians were so successful, because they went after it because they needed to survive.
Yeah. And I mean, it seemed I didn't get to watch every episode going through there, but it seemed like that you guys were pretty successful still.
We wound up getting lucky. Yeah. we were successful. We took what we know and applied it, and we were both able to kill animals. And one other team, they both killed animals, but 2 other teams, all accomplished and successful hunters, they were not able to fill a tag. So out of 8 of us, 4 of us filled a tag. And that's, like I said, pretty seasoned, successful hunters trying to fill the exact same tag, and we went 50%.
That's pretty dang good. With those, especially with those situations, just in general, that's pretty good. But what was it? What did that change with you being hungry and wore down and tired? Did you feel the drive just dropping, like to want to go keep looking, or like what were some of the feelings you had?
A lot of it was more the physical aspect of it. I was just totally drained and wanted to lay down and sleep and just kind of get through and wait for it. I mean, the drive was still there. We wanted to go. We just didn't have the gas in the tank to continue on and go, if the elk is bugling 2 ridges away and we're a ridge away, it's like, I don't know if we can make it over there. And you take off trying to go there. It takes you an extended amount of time over your normal to get there. We were hungry and wanted to get something to sustain us for the rest of the journey, but it definitely played a factor. You definitely didn't have the energy levels that you did prior, but we were still able to get it done, thankful to some sacrifices of rabbits and squirrels and piles of mushrooms.
The mushroom thing would be a scary, the scary one. I would not trust my own personal skills with eating mushrooms. I actually was just joking with some buddies that was turkey hunting yesterday morning, and I found some mushrooms that I knew were poisonous, and I sent them to some buddies, and I said, man, these are great. I said, these taste awesome. And they immediately were like, no, I hope don't eat those. Don't eat those. I was just messing around. But I know like very few mushrooms that I can eat or feel confident in like grabbing them.
Oh, exactly. 100%. Luckily, we kind of knew the mushrooms in our areas. And
yeah,
just to get back to actually who I am, a lot of time people refer to me as kind of a mushroom, and it's because I'm a real fun guy.
Oh, the dad jokes, the famous dad jokes are coming out. I thought you were just about to tell me something that I didn't know. I didn't see that one coming.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's your goal with it, right?
Yeah. Oh. Now, just you during any elk season, you've experienced it. You are going to burn way more calories than you will consume on a daily basis. So, trying to go and limit what you're eating or try and kill something to be able to eat definitely took a toll on it, and it's not something that we're going to be doing again anytime soon.
I was gonna say I would hope for your sake that wouldn't be an annual thing to do that.
I highly recommend it for anybody that has the same elk tag as we do, though. I mean, highly encourage you to do it so we can be out there chasing elk while you're trying to find mushrooms.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. But like when watching it or seeing you shoot that bull, and watching Corey was talking about this half a chunk of steak the steak that he had left that he was like holding on to, and he is like, Donnie better kill this bull. Otherwise, this is going to be, you had like 1,000 vertical feet to climb out of there, and just didn't know if you had the energy to get out. But there was also the thing that I heard you guys mention about how the hardest days were, if I heard this correctly, the hardest days were like day 2 and 3, and then you kind of got through that a little bit.
Yeah, it was just kind of getting to a point where we had eaten a rabbit and we had eaten a squirrel, and you kind of get to a point where you've burned off everything you had in your system. Now you're starting to burn your actual physical self to be able to keep going. I think that it had a little bit of a mental change. That's why I said where I just felt like I just wanted to lay down and go to sleep because I didn't have anything in me. And being able, if I was out there on that hunt doing that by myself, I probably would have just went to sleep and I wouldn't have been successful. But when you have the two of you, your hunting partner, that is motivating you and is going through that same struggle, it kind of gives you a purpose to, I have to do this to keep them motivated and on point, and he has to do it to keep me motivated and on point to continue on. So you're back to that, you lift each other up, a rising tide or a sinking ship rises all tides, or however the saying goes. A rising tide raises all ships. So
That's it. I was going to say, I'm terrible with movie quotes and just remembering like sayings in general, but you're screwing me up even more. uh, one other thing I thought of earlier that I wanted to ask you is, you were talking about, when you were learning to bow hunt elk and when you and Corey got together, have you seen any changes as far as, have you had to adjust your tactics at all since then? Are they still pretty similar, running the same type of playbook with a few adjustments, or what's that look like?
They're all still pretty similar. It's locate elk, be able to get in a good setup, and then call the elk in. I mean, it's not only just that wind, so you have to have that portion of it done. You can have the wind figured out all day long, but if you don't know how to set up next to a tree, in front of a tree, you're not going to increase your chances of success. If you don't know kind of how an elk is going to come into you, just based on where the wind is going, it's going to change how they approach as they come into you. Knowing how to stop an elk when it is time for a shot, those things play a huge role in being successful. And then another part of that is knowing your physical ability. If the elk are 10 miles in and you can only get 8 miles in, that's going to be something that is easy for you personally to change to your advantage. And so you have to go 10 miles in, you can only go 8. During the off season, you work on yourself so that you can go 12 and be more prepared when it comes time for you to fill that tag.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool to hear that, because I hear it all the time of, pressure's so high now that you can't call elk, you can't do this, and I see you guys, and I figured that was going to be your answer, because to me it seemed like you run a similar playbook and just keep doing it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I see it from the outside, watching you and then getting to know you as well, is like, I think where a lot of people, I guess, fail in it is they quit too early on trying those things. Like, for example, and I know elk hunters hate when you relate this to turkey hunting, but like with turkey hunting, it's like, all right, I'm running these ridges trying to get a gobbler to fire off. Yeah, it might be a quiet morning, but I'm going to try every single spot, every nook and cranny, and go until the time that I can't, until I have to stop hunting. And you just never know when something's going to go. And that's just running that playbook over and over again. The same thing with deer hunting of, all right, I know this is a good spot, but it's thick, it's lower deer density, so I'm going to need to sit here for multiple days on end. It's a good spot. I can't give up after trying it one time. Do you feel like that has a role in it?
Yeah, definitely. If you're back at camp or you are on your way home, it's going to be 100% failure every time. You're not going to kill an animal if you're not out in the field pursuing them. And it just makes that difference to keep after it. I think that we've killed more elk at the times that people are heading back to their camp to chill and eat a lunch and take a nap, when we don't ever go back to camp during the middle of the day. We've chased elk all morning. Why go away from them? They may be half a mile bedded from us. We go back to camp, we're going to have to come all the way back to try and find them again. And we just stay there, and a lot of times during the day you let out a bugle and they respond. That's a good time to go and dive in and pursue them in their bed where they're comfortable, and they're a little more apt to just talk to you and let you know where they are at. And it's not as aggressive as a chase situation or a fight situation. They're a little more relaxed. So being able to locate them during the middle of the day when they're bedded down, and then you can make a play on them, know where you need to be 4 hours later when those winds start switching. If they're bedded up on a hillside, okay, once the wind switches, they are probably going to come down this hill back to their feeding area or water. Here's where we need to be in order to cut them off and have a opportunity at a shot.
Because and that too, like in my limited experience of elk hunting, I've been in so many chases in the morning, as you call it, as they're going up the mountain, and I'm trying to get ahead of them, but you can't get ahead of them because the thermals are still in their favor at that point coming down. So you're like kind of coming at them from the side and trying to call. And I've only had one shot opportunity and I missed them. I hit a branch, but it seems to me like there's more action at that time, but it's harder to actually kill them in that earlier time in the morning. And do you feel that way as well, or am I just doing something completely wrong?
No, it's definitely a lot more vocalization and a chase and everything. It seems earlier in the morning, and it's more action because you're trying to catch up to them. They're trying to get to a bedding area. If they have cows with them, they're pushing them. The vocalization is, elevated because they're trying to talk to their cows, tell you to stay away. And when you get in there and you just stay backed off, if it's, 500-600 yards backed off from them when they bed down, and you're bedded down across the canyon from them, and you can let out a bugle a couple of times and they answer you, you don't want to run. You don't hear that bugle and go, we got to go in. We take that opportunity they've laid down over there, and that's where they're going to spend the rest of the hotter part of the day until the wind switches. Then they'll come down. That is our opportunity to take a nap for ourselves, regenerate, get recouped, and then be able to get over to a position where we know once the shadows start hitting the mountain, the wind is going to switch. We need to be right on that edge when that happens to be able to put a play on them.
So kind of just sitting, like moving into position right before that's about to switch, or as it's about to switch, and then almost like you're cutting that line of where it's starting to get risky, but trying to get into position then. But until then, kind of staying off a little bit.
Yeah, you're able to, talk to them. You can let out a cow call or let out your own bedded bugle sounding, a weak bugle, and they'll respond just saying, yeah, I'm still over here. You stay over there. My girls are here. Leave us alone. We're resting for the day. But that is also another opportunity to, he may have been chasing his cows all morning. He wanted to come back and play, but he didn't want to abandon his cows. Now that he's got them all put down, put in bed, and you let out a bugle, he might start coming towards you because he's more comfortable now to come back and check you out. So that is another one of the opportunities that you can use midday. All the cows are bedded down. That bull may want to get up, stretch his legs, come out and check you out, and you got to capitalize on that if they're being a little more vocal, or you can actually hear that they have moved from that bedded location. Hey, they're on their way over here. So we better get prepared, get the wind in our best or our most favorable condition.
Yeah. So when I think I guess it was a few years ago, 3 years ago now, was the first time it felt like, because I'd killed my first bull in 2019, and then 2022 was the next time I was focused on hunting elk, and I started being able to find them. Where before it felt like I was just spending years of just trying to find elk, and then all of a sudden I was getting into elk, but then I didn't know what to do. I was like, all right, I'm in elk all the time. Every day I was getting into them, but I was like, I didn't know what to do. And these are like the scenarios you're talking about, of like, all right, they're bedded. Like, I'd literally be sitting there being like, all right, I've been looking for this moment for years, and I'm not sure what to do, essentially. And spending 21 days in there and almost every day being on this herd I learned so much about it. And I remember when I was talking to you guys at TAC about this specific hunt, it was the following year. I remember talking to Corey and going through the situation, and because I had missed a bull, and then I ended up hitting the one. I skipped one into his backstrap, and it was a terrible situation. And I remember I was asking him, I was like, I'm struggling with this. And Corey just said to me, he's like, sounds like you just got to shoot a little better. And I was like, okay. But but those situations, I feel like when you do get into them, of like, all right, you got a bedded bull, he's got cows around, maybe there's some satellites out there, and of like how to essentially get that bull to get up in that middle of the day standpoint. And this was something I learned from you guys, was trying to get inside that bubble and get close enough that before you're making a call. Is that correct?
Yeah, just that he's bedded down. If you get inside of that bubble 100 yards or so, and you can get him not to just respond with a bedded bugle, but you can get him up and engaged, there's more times than not, he is going to come engage you because you got him out of bed, and he wants to keep you from coming in and messing with his cows. Or he might not have cows, and he thinks that you have cows, and he wants to come in and challenge you. They typically, if it's that middle of the day and you can get them to fire off and come up out of their bed, they're typically going to come in a little pissed off and aggressive, and with a little bit of their guard relaxed or down. So just kind of looking for that bugle. And when that happens, it's a different story, and it happens extremely quick.
What's your calling strategy once you get in close like that? So you slip in, try to get in within 100 yards of them. What do you do from that point?
So typically we're just going to cow call and wait for him to initiate a bugle. We won't ever start off that initiation with a bugle because we want to be, a sexy chick on the other side of the bar and her hooting and hollering and have a guy saying, hey, I'm your man, I'm over here. And he does that and responds back with a bugle saying, hey, I'm over here, lady. Come and see me. And when he pipes off, that's when you need to be prepared and ready to come over the top of him with your most aggressive bugle that you can gather and tell him, that's my girl. She's with me. Back off. And that startles them and gets them, that's the point where gets them to, roll their eyes in the back of the head and they just want to come in and fight at that point.
Yeah. That analogy of the bar situation always just hits home because it's if someone just comes in to a bar and there's a loudmouth over there yelling some stuff, you're more likely to ignore them versus the latter situation there, that once you introduce a woman into the mix and you're close enough where it's like, okay, it's fight or flight. Like I gotta make a decision here.
Exactly. And they're realizing, okay, somebody's coming in to try and take what I have away from me. I'm going to defend it like I'm supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah. And with those scenarios, you mentioned something briefly earlier, but I think this is, I imagine to you, this is an elementary thing, but I think it's so important of the stand, like when you're getting set up of standing in front of the tree instead of like behind a bush or behind a tree per se, to have the maximum shot opportunities versus, being behind something.
Yeah. And that's where knowing your wind, and if you're a shooter and you're here and your caller is back, 20 to 80 yards back behind you, calling, and the elk is out here up in front, knowing what the wind is going to be doing, okay, they're going to want to have the advantage and smell you. So we call it the triangle you know what I'm talking about from the University of Elk Hunting.
Yep.
And you want to be on that arc. That elk is going to be coming down around to try and get the wind in his favor. You want to be concealed, but not in a position where you are going to limit yourself on a shooting lane to be able to shoot. I mean, if the wind is coming, in your face like this, you don't want to be sitting on the backside of a tree looking that way. The elk there might be a couple of dumb ones, but they're not going to come on that side of the tree for the opening. They're going to be wanting to know where they're going to want to try and smell you or smell your caller, and you need to be able to reposition yourself where you're going to have an open shooting lane to be able to get a shot. If you don't have a shot, there's no sense in even setting up.
And when it comes down to that opportunity for a shot, that is something that when I ran into those scenarios of having elk come in, whether it was from calling or whatever else, it made me appreciate watching you and Corey and the others so much more, of being able to shoot from the standpoint of like yardages. Are you pre-arranging stuff when you get to the tree? How are you understanding yardages, and because elk are unpredictable sometimes on how they're going to come through places.
They are 100% unpredictable, but they're always going to use their nose. So when we get up, collars set up back there, we get set up on a tree that, okay, this could be a good vantage point. It's immediately check your wind. Which way is the wind blowing? Okay, I need to be on that side of the tree, or on that side of the tree that I have more advantage of. Sometimes you're on the side of a tree and there's no way that he's going to come in on that side. You don't want to have branches or brush or no opening. And after that, I'll pull up the rangefinder and I'm scanning trees far. Okay, that tree is too far. That tree is at 50 yards. He needs to be this side of that tree. Here's a tree in front of me that's at 20 yards. Hopefully there's something in between that 20 and that 50 that you can reference at, say, a 35 that covers all the pins that you have, and you know where to adjust. And that's how we reference each. You range a far thing, you range a near thing, and hopefully something in the middle that is going to let you determine, okay, I'm going to be able to use my 30-yard pin and my 40-yard pin for this entire range, narrowing it down from, if you have a 5-pin sight, you just narrowed it down to 2. If he's on that side of the tree, I know that he's going to be at this distance. If he's on this side, he's going to be at this distance. So it's kind of it's a guessing game every single time that they come in, but based on the wind and what you know on how they're going to try and approach something, you can take it from this big of an angle down to this big of an angle to give yourself, you've eliminated everything in between. Now he has to step into this spot, and if he does, I'm going to be able to capitalize on it.
And I noticed, so do you shoot is it a 5-pin sight that you shoot?
I shoot a 5-pin sight. It's a slider, but all tack season and all shooting season, I'll adjust to the exact yardage. But during hunting season, I lock it in place and I'm using my 5 pins. I'm never adjusting my sight for the exact yardage. It's there, so if I take a shot at 30 yards and it's a good shot and he runs out and now he's at 90 yards, I can take that time to dial and to the yardage I know that he's at to take a follow-up shot. But during season, I'm never moving my sights unless it's for a secondary shot.
Yeah, I've learned that it's very rare that you have that opportunity when you could actually move it. And so I shoot a 3-pin vertical, but the one drawback to the pin configuration that I have is they are spread apart a little bit more than I would like, but I always have struggled with horizontal pins. So like that was like the 3-pin vertical gave me a little bit more than if I was shooting a single pin or even a double pin. It gave me a little bit more structure. But one thing that I started doing last year that actually helped me a lot on the elk hunts I did last year was I learned that 30 yards, having my top pin at 30 yards was kind of my sweet spot of like 6 inch, at 18 yards, I was hitting 6 inches high, and, at 35 or whatever, I might be 6 inches low. So I have a little bit more, but I was like, all right, I'm pretty good with that 30-yard pin from 35 and in, looking at the vitals and what an elk is at. But what I would do was I'd pick a spot on the target and I'd shoot with my 30-yard pin, but I'd back up, or go closer. And wherever those arrows would hit, I'd take a picture of it with my iPhone, circle which arrow it was, and I'd write on it with my iPhone, like with a little marker. I would draw like, this is where it hit at 25. This is where it hit, 30 should hit in the dot. This is where it hit at 40. So I could understand my drop in case I did have to like really, and I'm saying that especially for a lot of whitetail guys that may be using, a single, double, vertical type pin that are using their bow to go out west. It was something that helped me out a lot to understand where my bow was hitting at those, because you're rarely, especially in a calling situation, you're not going to be able to dial in your sight.
Yeah, I mean, he could literally come in at 10 yards, or he could come in out there at 50 yards. And literally that 30-yard sweet spot, if you know that he's between 40 and 20, you can put that 30 on there, and you're going to hit a little high if he's closer or a little bit low if he's farther. But you are still going to be able to capitalize on that kill zone by using your gaps, right? So I've tried many different ones, and this all goes back to going to those 3D shoots or going to attack and practicing these scenarios. Try guessing that yardage. I mean, we've done that literally when we've shot together. Okay, nobody range find.
Yep.
Where are we at? We take our shots, and oh wow, it was 60 yards instead of 45, and just knowing downhill, uphill, just practicing those shots and knowing, can I use my 30-yard pin and it still be good versus using my 32-yard pin or adjusting to 32.
Yeah. I mean, obviously in the best world out there, you'd be able to dial to the exact yardage and just be able to shoot, but that's just not the normal scenario. Now, I will say, Donnie, my first elk was the situation that it wasn't a calling situation, but he was 60 yards in a meadow, like what you would dream of, but rarely would happen elk hunting, and head down feeding that I could range him, dial the sight in, draw back, and shoot. That hasn't happened since then, but it was, the one I shot in Utah last year was a scenario where he was raking a tree, and I had spooked the cows because I needed, it was kind of an now or never to move in, and I knew that I knew that when he was raking that tree, his senses were like, he couldn't see, he's not really hearing at that point, he's just raking that tree. So I just basically ran and blew out those cows, and when he got out, he noticed they were gone, and he started to go, and I stopped him with the cow call, and I was just guessing at that point, but I knew enough of like kind of where my pin forgiveness was to where to be able to put it and make a shot on him and shoot him. And I think practicing those scenarios is really big. And I would not have known that without running into situations where I wish I did know that.
Yeah, exactly. No, if we could have the exact yardage every time, there'd be a lot less missed shots. But the more you can practice and know, okay, that tree is 10 yards. That same distance is another 10 yards beyond that tree. You can start counting and kind of get yourself within 10 yards. And if you can pick, okay, he's probably at 38 yards, and I can use my 40-yard pin and maybe aim, just a little bit low on him. It's knowing your arrow flight and your trajectories only going to come by practicing. So I highly encourage any and everybody to go out and do either a total archery challenge, find a local 3D shoot where you're at, or if none of that's possible, taking your target out on a hillside and you just walk around that target and go and guess your yardage without ranging it, then it's only going to improve your chances of success.
Yeah. I remember, well, one thing I'll do is I'll take arrows and I'll just like have them in my hand. I'll just throw them at random points in the yard and then just go and pick it up and no ranging and shoot and try, guess and shoot. And like that, but even like that, what you said, the local 3D shoots, when I started going to the total archery challenges, I was like, these are the mecca of 3D shoots. And then I was like, oh, these other ones are going to be easy. Well, they're not. It's still is a even with closer distances and stuff. You go and shoot one, say they're in the woods, and you got tree branches and you got things. That's where like you're talking about knowing those your trajectory of your arrow. The situation we gave earlier when we were shooting with Dudley, and I smacked that arrow. No. I should have known that my arc would have hit that branch, and like but I learned that from that scenario, and I think it's I think what you said is just that's spot on. Like really good information for anyone that's listening of practicing those different scenarios. Going out in your Crocs in your yard and shooting known distances all the time is good for that muscle memory, but being able to change it up a little bit definitely helps in those real life scenarios.
Yeah, you definitely learn more from your failures than you can learn by reading or watching a video. Until you experience that failure. You experience a failure once, it is going to stick in your mind 100% of the time. You might be able to read something or watch a video. It's not going to stick in your mind until it hurts when you miss something because, I didn't pay attention to how high my arrow was going to travel at 38 yards.
Yeah.
I think you hit that tree and it was only 20 yards away.
The target was a lot further, but the tree might have been somewhere in that range.
Yes.
I'm trying to, make myself feel better. That's all.
There you go. But you learned a lot from it.
No, but exactly. Don't trust your friends. But I think in general, I think in general, hearing those things and to me, and again, I keep saying this, but now that I've had more experience elk hunting, hearing you say those things, like I've watched you do it on hunts on Elk 101. I've watched all this stuff before, but until you experience it, you really understand the significance of it. So I'm urging anybody that's newer to it, that's listening to really take that in, because I think what you're saying is super important.
Yeah. Well, it's not only important, you've had multiple opportunities since you've started elk hunting, but a lot of guys are only going to get one opportunity to come out west and hunt elk. If that's it, you don't want to learn on a failure on your one and only hunt. You want to be as prepared as you can prior to coming out and doing that experience that you're only going to get one shot at. And on the flip side of that, if you're going out every single year, you have to stay on top of it, and you have to keep that knowledge at the forefront to recall it and not allow those to destroy your opportunity on a hunt every year.
Donnie, you've mentioned a lot of different things throughout this episode as far as like things that have helped you and go through it. But like if you were to leave people with one thing like to make sure they never forget when it comes to elk hunting, what would that be?
I've said it since I killed that very first elk. Knowing the wind is your absolute most critical thing that you can learn to be able to be successful at elk hunting. If you don't know how to play the wind, you have decreased your success rate by 90%. Knowing, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to just know it in the situation. You can learn to play thermals when you're out on your turkey hunt, your mule deer hunt, your whitetail hunt, anything. If you're fishing, you can have a wind detector with you to verify what the wind is doing at any time of the day. And that is going to be your biggest determining factor on whether you're successful or not, is whether or not you know the wind and what role it plays in where an elk is going to position himself in front of your arrow.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And even like just in general with, moving in on an elk with the wind, but also the points you brought up multiple times about the calling situations on how they're going to come in and using the wind, like all of those things. I had a feeling that was going to be your answer because the wind is at every point of the day as you're elk hunting something that you're thinking about.
100%. If we left the truck in the morning, and this has happened before, if I left the truck and I didn't have my release, I can get by. I could shoot fingers. Corey shot an elk once because I had forgot my release. He gave me his release that morning because he was caller, I was shooter. And if it was a wind detector, I would have stopped the hunt and gone back to the truck to get the wind detector. Because I'm not going to need my release if I don't know where the wind's going.
Yeah. No, that's I think that that signifies the significance of that and the wind. I think that's such a valuable point there, and I like that you said that, and that's something that's using woodsmanship of learning that's not a specific tool, that's not a specific tactic. It's just understanding how that wind plays, and it's pretty cool.
Well, and back to the beginning, the whitetail hunters know how to set up their tree stand. They're gonna move their tree stand 10 degrees because they know the wind is more prevalent this way than it is this way. So know that the whitetail hunters, especially the tree stand hunters, know what the wind is doing all of the time. Now you just have to apply it to a steep hillside.
Now with you mentioned that as being something that whitetail hunters do well when it comes to the wind. What are something you think that whitetail hunters don't do well when it comes to elk hunting, or need to overcome, or like almost unlearn something?
Well, I don't want to make it sound like you're a lazy ass, but walking from your truck into your tree stand is a little bit different than walking from your truck at 6,000 feet in elevation to 8,000 feet in elevation. And the whitetail hunters, that's going to be your biggest disadvantage, is the physical aspect of it.
And the mountains are always bigger in person than they are on a map.
Yeah, the internet lies, Google Earth lies. Those lines on the topo map are always a lot steeper than they appear.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. So the last question I have for you, Donnie, has nothing to do with elk hunting, but do you still have the Jeepster?
I still have the Jeepster. It's sitting in the shop outside. It's summertime. I've already done a couple of car shows with it and got a couple 100 miles on it so far this year. It's had a couple of nice days where I could take it out and drive it and get a exhilaration of driving that thing. That's my pride and joy.
Yeah. So explain to people what it is. Explain a little bit about the Jeepster.
So it's a 1950 Willys Jeepster that I started building with my dad when I was 14 years old. Totally redid the entire thing, and they did not make them four-wheel drive. And I built an entire frame that went underneath it and mounted it to it. So now it's a big jacked up four-wheel drive monster Jeep that I take out and use and abuse, and it is no matter when I drive it or where I drive it, it is a parade because everybody's looking at it and waving and saying hi and what is that?
Oh, I bet. Is it what cuz do you have boggers on that?
No, I had monster mutters on it when I first started it, but now they're some Dixie Peck extremely aggressive tires.
Okay. I remember I haven't looked at a picture of it in a while, but I remember the look of it, and that's I can see why everyone's will stop and look at you when you drive through.
Yeah. No, it's a fun time, and I enjoying going and telling the story, and it's not like it's a show car or anything because I take it out and do rock crawls and snow runs and actually go out and use it. And a lot of times the guys in the Jeep Club are a little upset with me because you're not going to take this out here, are you? I'm like, I didn't build it to look pretty. I built it to be able to go out in four-wheel drive and get to places I wouldn't be able to elsewise.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually going to be picking up 1979 CJ7 and here soon, and I the person I was buying it from, it had never seen rain or dirt or anything in the past, and they're like, oh, like, just want someone that's going to appreciate it. I'm like, oh, I'll appreciate it. I'm thinking, but I'm like, I wasn't gonna tell them that I'm not going to be the exact same way. I'm not going to destroy it by any means like I did my old Jeep when I was 16. But I want to. If I'm going to have it, I want to use it.
Yeah, you're going to definitely appreciate the places that it's going to take you.
Yes, that's exactly right. No, I had to bring that up because I love when you post pictures and stuff of that thing. Hopefully someday I'll get to see it in person.
Yes, we'll go on a ride, and then there will be another reason for people to stare at me because I got Beau sitting in.
Yeah. You just gotta. They'll be like, "Hey, you gotta watch out for that creep in the passenger seat with the mustache."
Yeah, there's a lot more to him than just that mustache.
Oh man, well, Donnie, man, it was great getting to catch up with you here, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule here to come on the podcast and do that. And hopefully, like I said, we get to catch up here in a month or so at a Total Archery Challenge and get to shoot together again. But I really do appreciate you taking the time coming on here.
Oh, thanks for having me, and hopefully somebody gets something out of all of that. But it's always fun to talk to you, and I'm literally proud of you and the success that you've made out of informing the East people to being able to come out west. I'm sure that you are the exact reason for a lot of success on this side of the Rockies for people from the east side of the Rockies.
Oh, I appreciate that, but that's that all comes down to the guests that I have on. I'm still, me personally, I'm learning, trying to be one of those people that are having that success. But that's the fun in it all, and I highly recommend everyone going to check out. You'll see Donnie a lot, and most of the Elk 101 videos over on YouTube. You can also follow along with Donnie personally on Instagram, Eat, Sleep, Hunt, Elk, and also the Elk 101 Instagram. Is there anything else that I'm forgetting there as far as directing people?
That's pretty much it. And just the way that you started out your elk hunting. If I know you've preached it, I'm not positive, but I think that you still have a code to be able to get a discount on the University of Elk Hunting, whether it's through the outdoor class or the other, but you can not only get the University of Elk Hunting, but if you are after that, you can also get your Whitetail hunting tactics from Beau through the outdoor class.
Yeah, and I believe oh man, I don't remember what the code is, but I think I would try East meets West. If that doesn't work, reach out and I'll find it. But I'm pretty sure East meets West will get you a little discount there, and maybe you have a discount of your own there.
I don't. They are hard to keep up with. As always,
yeah.
As he says it, I think that no matter where you go, you can use the code Randy and get a discount on pretty much everything out there.
That is so true. Yeah, use Randy Newberg's discount code if those others don't work. Oh man, I love Randy. He's such a good guy.
Yeah.
But all right, well, Donnie, thank you again. I greatly appreciate it, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you here in a month or so.
Sounds good, buddy. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with your buddies. Leave us a rating, a review, and subscribe. If you want to check out more content like this, there's plenty in the links below. We truly appreciate having you guys along with us.